It's time for Rockin Company's Rockin CU. Making Colorado beautiful, natural stone construction for 5 decades. Rockin Company, rockinco.com, and Zadie's Deli. Hitting it out of the park with those great sandwiches stuffed with homemade corned beef. The other deli treats, free parking front and back in Cherry Creek, 121 Adams Street, and they cater Zadie's Deli. And we welcome Adam Munsterteiger, buffstampede.com. Follow him at AdamCM777. And good snowy morning, Adam.
Yeah, good morning. You guys staying warm down there in the studio?
I am. After a great season, and it's been several years, we've got Buff news to talk about. Buff names mentioned prominently on the second day of the NFL draft, including the guy clearly, in my opinion, was the best player on last year's division-winning Colorado Buffalo team, Chidobe Awuzie, at cornerback, taken by a pretty good team.
Yeah, it seemed like Chidobe Awuzie was moving up, at least, you know, all those mock drafts, and it was starting to look like, okay, he might be a late first round, early second round, and as the picks kept going by and by, you started to get not necessarily worried because you knew he was going to get picked at some point in the second day, but you were starting to feel kind of bad for him. He got that invite out to the NFL draft, but it worked out. He gets picked number 60 by the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys lost a couple cornerbacks, Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne, to free agency. So he goes to a great situation. He's going to obviously get to go in there, compete for playing time in the Cowboys' cover 2 pass defense scheme. And he's going to a team that went 13-3 last season, and obviously has a lot of young superstars at quarterback and running back. So they should be good for a really long time. So it's a good situation.
Yeah, I think it's terrific. And he is an overachiever. He will always do better than people think he will do. Terrific young man. A guy who actually scouts felt has a lot of holes in his game, and one reason is he's a latecomer because he grew so late into a major college prospect. At one point, I think, growing 7 inches in height in a short period of time. Akello Witherspoon goes only 6 picks later, but he goes to a rebuilding situation run by a former defensive back at San Francisco, John Lynch. And I think they liked Awuzie's speed, a 4.45 guy, and his height at 6'3" for a cornerback.
Yeah, the question with Akello is, you know, you're obviously not going to be able to rely on him in terms of run support. And I don't know the NFL well enough to know how much you can mask that with a guy. I would imagine that won't be extremely difficult. He's going to be asked to be a cover corner out there on that island. It is a pretty good fit for him, just personnel-wise, too. The 49ers recently released veteran cornerback Tremaine Brock, and they had, at their recent minicamp practices, a couple really young, unestablished starting corners in those practices. So, again, another situation where Witherspoon can go in there, compete from day one. And you know, he's from the Bay Area, which it makes it even better for him. I think some players, you might worry about going back home with a little money in their back pocket, but Witherspoon isn't that kid. He's a model citizen and a smart kid and all that good stuff. So I do like where he landed as well, from just being able to compete right away going in there.
Yeah, I think terrific. Number 66. Both guys land in good spots, and I expect to hear their names in the NFL for several years more. Guy who I feel like is the most difficult to replace of all of the guys on last year's Buff team, Josh Tupou, defensive tackle, nose tackle kind of guy. He's the guy I think has the best chance to get drafted on the final draft day today. What are Josh's chances, and who else do you think might get a call?
Well, I actually think Tedric Thompson is going to be the next Buff drafted today. I think he could really get drafted at any point today. Although I do expect him to get picked before the 7th round, whereas Josh Tupou, if he gets drafted, you're probably looking at 6th or 7th round pick. It's unfortunate that his NFL Combine invite got rescinded, because I think that would have helped Josh Tupou being able to go out there. But I think he's going to certainly get a chance. He needs to probably go to somebody that runs a 3-4 so he can continue playing that nose tackle. He's kind of perfect for controlling both A-gaps. That's what he does really well. That's why he was so valuable at Colorado, and certainly he'll get that chance, whether it's getting drafted late today. But Tedric Thompson has a chance. His top-end speed isn't elite. He ran like 4.6 at the Combine, so that's why he's not a first or second-day pick. But I think he's a guy you're going to really miss for Colorado in that secondary next year. On that back end, he was so valuable and just play with great instincts back there. And then certainly there's going to be a host of other players that get a shot as an undrafted free agent, defensive lineman, Samson Kafavalo, Jordan Carroll, Jimmy Gilbert, outside linebacker, Kenneth Olubode will get a shot. Even Sefo Lufau will, get a shot in the camp somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Free agents, maybe I give the scouts too much credit, but I feel like they'll see in Tupou what I've seen, and he will get drafted. And, it'd be great if Thompson goes quickly as well. Big news on the basketball front. Possibly the starting point guard just committed for next season, part of the class of 2017, McKinley Wright for the Buffs.
Yeah, possibly. He comes from Minnesota. He was actually signed with Dayton, and then when their coach left for the Indiana job, he decided to reopen his recruitment and was out in Boulder for a visit recently and just committed just yesterday. He could definitely come in and compete for that starting point guard job from day one. Pretty highly regarded guy, had quite a few options, plays with a great feel for the game. When I watch this film, he just seems like that kid that grew up sleeping with his basketball at night and carrying it around with him all day. He just looks really natural with the basketball in his hand, and he's an excellent ball handler, someone that can get up and down the court quickly, push the pace, kind of like Thomas Akizili did, but unlike Akizili, McKinley Wright is actually a serviceable shooter and somebody that's getting better on the perimeter with his jump shots. And also, you hear from talking to people that have watched him play in person that he's a good defensive player. So a really good pickup for the Buffs. And now I think you like the signing that they had of Lazar Nikolic a little bit better now that he can play off the ball a little bit, be a 6'6" that can handle the ball and pass and rebound. So this Chad Boyle thinks this is his best recruiting class, and it comes at a good time after 2 of the last 3 years, them not living up to expectations. So they definitely needed to up their recruiting, and it seems like they've done that, at least on paper.
So you do give McKinley Wright a shot as a freshman to come in here and actually run the point. Obviously, filling Derek White's shoes, not something anybody expects, but you actually give him a shot.
I give him a shot. I wouldn't predict that that's going to happen. I think Dominique Collier, given now that he's going to have that experience and be a senior, has probably got the leg up there. But it wouldn't shock me based off what we know about McKinley Wright and his potential.
And I believe Collier showed some things the end of last year that were encouraging me about him doing the job and doing it well as a senior, plus that whole senior status thing kicking in. Football recruiting, 4-star receivers getting to be a commonplace thing in Boulder. They've recruited a couple, and now another one is set to visit, and they've offered him. Yeah,
you look at their depth for this upcoming season, and you wonder how Darren Cheverini is going to get the ball to all the talented receivers they have and keep them all happy. But 4 of those guys are seniors, and if Kabion Ento doesn't redshirt, they're 4 of their best 5 or 6 guys are going to be gone next year. So you got to always keep building that pipeline for the future. In Solomon Ennis, number 1 rated receiver in Arizona this recruiting cycle. He's going to take an unofficial to CU this summer, and they're in the mix for some other receivers as well. They're probably only going to take 1 or 2 this year. With Ennis, though, his father, Curtis Ennis, was an All-American running back at Penn State, so the family history there might be tough for Solomon to turn down, but he does plan to take his time with the process and visit a lot of other schools. Colorado's got 6 commits now, but they're going to probably keep filling up. They got a big barbecue event this summer, and that's probably when they'll bring out Ennis. But, receiver, we've seen with Cheverini since he came in here that they've recruited that position at a really high level.
One of the things we should say in the Buffs' favor in terms of battling, say, a Penn State for a legacy like Solomon Ennis, his dad Curtis Ennis, as you mentioned, a lot of us remember him, is the fact that he's coming out of Phoenix. He is a Western guy. The family's in the West, and that could help immensely. Let's talk about BuffStampede.com in our final minute here. What's coming up?
Lots of recruiting. The spring evaluation period is ongoing. The assistant football coaches are on the road, so we're tracking all the new offers that they're putting out there.
Very good. Well, I read it religiously. I encourage people to subscribe, BuffStampede.com. He's Adam Munsterteiger. We talk every week about the Buffs in this section. Have a good day, Adam. Stay warm.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Take care. That's Rockin Company's Rockin CU with Adam Munsterteiger. Rockin Company, making Colorado beautiful, natural stone construction for 5 decades. Rockin Company, rockinco.com. And Zadie's Deli, hitting it out of the park with those great sandwiches, stuffed with homemade corned beef and deli treats, parking front and back in Cherry Creek. Not easy to find that elsewhere. 121 Adams Street, and they cater Zadie's Deli. When we come back, Rockies talk.
Who would have thought that you'd